the Garu Garu is like, oh no, I know that one. Not that girl. Welcome back to a wonderful review of a wonderful Precure. And immediately when we start out this episode, I felt really proud of myself. I was like, that is an old sewing machine. And later in the episode, they're like, that is an old sewing machine. I sewed for a couple of years, so I'm glad my knowledge still is relevant. But yeah, we start off immediately with Mayu, and we bring up the topic of this very Nyammy heavy episode, which is the disappearance of Yuki. Also, just look at this. Look how cute these are. I love that Mayu sews all these little outfits for all the little animals. I can tell you right now, if I put that on my cat, she would drop to the side. Whenever I put any kind of clothing on her, she's like, my legs stopped working. So, best of luck trying to get this on Yuki, but it's very cute and he's got those strawberries. But yes, on to the disappearance of Yuki. Mayu has finally started to notice that Yuki is not there, which has to be the case if she is marauding around as Nyammy. And she's looking everywhere for her. Also, to note, Mayu seems to have sewn pretty much every single thing in their house. Anything that could be sewn, she has sewn. I'm wondering if she put this cushion together that's out here on this little porch. I also hope it's rain resistant. She even did this little mat. That's really cute. I love this little mat. Once again, Precure, you have some interesting products in your show that could be really cool IRL. Just putting that out there, just saying. Purchasable. Anyways, Yuki, being the coy little cat that she is just like, I've been here the whole time. I've been here the whole time, Mayu, please. But we all know that she is sneaking off and becoming Nyammy. I also love like the moon motifs they have going here. It's very Sailor Moon. It's very Sailor Moon with the amount of like, and the moon. And we have Mayu worrying about Yuki while at school, which also this mirrors very perfectly the image from a couple of episodes before where we had Mayu's backstory on her, like, you know, not doing super well in school. I just wanted to point out that it's pretty much that same pose again, but now her new uniform. Fun little visual parallels. But of course, she has her besties. Her absolute high energy besties there to support her, which is cute. A stark difference from what happened before. And Mayu goes on this whole rant about Yuki disappears, but we always find her, but she's been disappearing lately, and I'm really worried about it. And that's a big mood as a cat owner. My cat, for various reasons, is no longer an outdoor cat. She got into a couple of scuffles. She's an indoor cat now. But she would go on journeys, I tell you. She would go to the other side of the moon, and one time she did get stuck in our neighbor's shed because she is a curious cat and needs to be not that. I completely agree with Mayu, and she's like, I don't know how far away my cat goes, and I was like, girl, I got one of those like collars that tracks your cat. My cat, she was going on a little journey across all of the neighborhoods and allegedly across the like a 4-laned road, and I was like, Miss Ma'am, we are not doing that. Everything you feel is justified, Mayu. My cat was not marauding around as a cure, but I feel you. You don't know where that cat's up to, and it's very stressful. We also have this bit where Komugi was supposed to come as human Komugi, but came as dog Komugi to Mayu's house in order to help resolve this Yuki drama. But she came as a dog, so goofy. Also, I just like this background. I know it's like, oh no, we're sweating nervous background, but like, it's a very nice shade of blue. I like the like iconography. It's very pretty. I'm just putting it out there. I like blue. And then we also get to see that, oh, Komugi's wearing the outfit that Mayu made for her. And just like, look at this adorable pup. Look at this adorable pup. Also, this episode, just animation and just design-wise, is very pretty. It's another pretty episode. Oh, and I saw this cake. I got very distracted. Or I guess it's pie? I'm not super knowledgeable as I wish to be when it comes to dessert items. But I'm like, what flavor is this? Like, it's a little late in the season to be doing pumpkin. Maybe it's orange? They're drinking orange juice, I assume. Maybe it's carrot juice, I don't know. It's got like interestingly looking holly leaves on there, but I'm like, I hope we're not eating holly berries. I don't know, somebody inform me of what is happening on this little cake situation. Nonetheless, in order to pursue where Yuki has been off, they use the power of Komugi's smell, which I constantly underestimate the power of smell in this season. It's something that comes up quite frequently, especially with Komugi. I also didn't think about the way that the scent could potentially work, because it ultimately fails. Komugi gets to the point where she reaches a spot and she's like, this is where the scent of Yuki disappears. And I'm curious if they change into cures, because we've had no way to verify this thus far, does your scent change when you enter cure form? Otherwise, she should have been able to detect that Nyammy is Yuki immediately, because she's like, you smell like Yuki. Maybe that will come into play later, but it's an interesting observation I just wanted to put out there. Also, this is just hilarious. I did not realize there was going to be this kind of like underlying beef between Iroha and Yuki this episode, because Iroha brings in this camera, which I assume this must be a normal thing in Japan. I probably could use this. We've got like less cute looking cameras that do this that are expensive, but I would love a cheap camera that just like follows the like tracks the movement of your animal, and then you get a little live stream. That's pretty fancy. Yuki though looks like she's about to commit some murder on that bird. Let's turn that into a crow because it's gonna be a murder crow. Okay, that joke was not funny, but nonetheless, we just have this standoff. Like Yuki is like, I had zero feelings towards you before, Iroha, but you are now enemy number one. Which is also hilarious because up to this point, Iroha has been the Disney princess of every animal in the series thus far. But she has made an enemy of Yuki. I thought that Yuki and Komugi would have more tension, but I like the fact that they've actually established some kind of dynamic between Iroha and Yuki. And then we now move to Mayu finally experiencing a garu-garu. They went hard on this scene because I thought we were sitting here in like a little like low-key horror anime. It got very dramatic and spooky for this owl. Also, shout out to this owl just floating in midair, like in this scene, like it comes at her and just then stops moving in midair. Like I know it's like the whole animation thing, but they could have like had him float a couple feet to like imply that he was still moving. It was a very interesting animation choice that I thought was kind of silly goofy. And of course, Nyammy is like, I detect something bad is occurring and is on the scene. Like, oh, so pretty. Everything. I love it when a new cure debuts because they do put like effort into that cure appearing, and they definitely were like, we're going hard for Nyammy. Everything about Nyammy in this episode, I have a lot of screenshots. This was a good one. She's so pretty. Every shot with her eyes is just gorgeous. And even the shoes, I didn't realize they had this like fancy, it's very Mila style to have like the curve at the bottom. Reminds me of like a violin. I like it. I like the detail. They actually, all the shoes are very detailed in this season for the cures. It's a very interesting choice. Whoever, the designer must really like shoes. They just like, even this, like her whole rollback here, every one of these frames is very well animated. There isn't a lot of in-between or like mushiness between them. So it's just a well animated episode. And then her once again like confronting Mayu about like, girl, I don't want you to be in danger. I do not want any harm to come to you. Oh, and the shield was so good. The animation just leading up to it. Her shield being utilized as a weapon to like jupe at the garu-garu. I'm so into it. I'm so here for it. I'm so sad that this is a non-violent anime. And we have Mayu, so I want to put it out here. We have been joking about Mayu being the densest human being under the sun because she sat there and could not realize that Komugi is also other Komugi, aka human versus dog, and has been completely oblivious to that and like hasn't really truly thought about the fact of the similarities between them. But this girl takes one look at Nyammy and hears her utter one word and she's like, oh my god, that's that weird blonde girl I saw the other day. She went from dense to perceptive, 0 to 100. Miss Ma'am. And then we get to our main body of the episode where we have our girls trying to deal with the owl, and they finally get to witness Nyammy fighting and her just absolutely kicking some butt. Oh, Diva. Love her. I normally am not like super attached to the diva characters, but I'm here for Nyammy. Nyammy will change me. So pretty. Every shot. I just got too many of these. We're gonna all experience the beauty of Nyammy. Even the garu-garu is like, oh no, I know that one. Not that girl. Not this cat girl. Not her. And then she like comes in with what was going to be a beautiful sky punch, but turns into a badass kick. She can roundhouse like no one's business. It will be an underutilized technique. Look, behold, behold. And then we bring up Pure Friendy. I know some people were like, I don't know why Komugi wasn't the one who intercepted them. And I think that will come into play later, especially with perhaps her joining the team. But I think this episode really wanted to establish some kind of tension between Friendy and Yuki, because we already have a certain type of tension between Yuki and Komugi. So it makes sense that Friendy was the one like trying to yell stop and nearly getting a heel to the face. I honestly thought she was gonna get kicked. It's impressive that she didn't. Low key. but she hesitates. And I think she already knows that Friendy is Iroha. And of course, Komugi comes in there too, defending her and defending them. And we have the standoffness. Now, I wanted to talk about this for a second because this whole scene made me feel things. I personally, like, one of the top 3 reasons why I like Magical Girl series is for the fighting. I do love the violence. I like the idea of girls being able to kick some butt and do it all in fancy dresses of their choice. So it feels very counterintuitive to be like, no fighting! And Yuki just sitting here, Yuki kind of is me right now. Like, this episode, in terms of, like, the combat thus far, or just, like, any of the interactions with the Garu, this has by far blown it out of the water compared to everything else, because they're just doing, like, silly, goofy jumps the entire time, but this has, like, the pristine, lovely fighting that we have from these kind of sassier, more no-nonsense characters. So it's very sad to hear them be like, no fighting, but they do bring it back. Originally they're like, this is not how you be a cure, and I was like, well, listen here. Don't be talking like you have any idea what the rest of the freaking 70 other cures do. But I'm glad that they saved it in the second half with being like, these are Garu. They are animals whose hearts have been darkened and are, like, evil against their will and everything, and you've got to heal them, not hurt them. I'm glad we went that direction, and we need to remind it, and they really need to focus on that, because there's so much nuance in this conversation that I think is incredibly important. It's also counterintuitive to straight up the last season we had. Magical Girl series, especially Precure in recent years, has had a very rough of time for me personally, where we stand on girls don't fight, and luckily this series sitting on the other end of the spectrum being like, no animal cruelty. As long as we continue to focus more on the no animal cruelty and the not girls can't fight, the happier I will be. And I think they're doing that. It's just when they don't lead with that, I'm like, And I think I'm not the only one here. I think a lot of people watching the season all consistently have that problem. And I think even the lead writer has talked about that that's something that she wanted to do. And I think it had more pushback than she expected. But also, again, coming off something like Hodogaru Sky Precure, where they were punching out the wazoo, it makes sense that people are going to be like, this is very starkly the opposite message. And so keeping the nuance of the animals, I think, is incredibly important for this conversation. Rant over. And then we have, in the very sassy way, Nyammy is like, yeah, you do you, but this guy almost ate my owner, so I'm gonna do me. And then her watching the purification for the first time being like, food for thought. But ultimately introducing herself as Nyammy, which, mind you, Nyammy is such a goofy, silly name, but she says it so eloquently here. I'm impressed that she just drops her name in the most, like, Ojo way possible. And we have Mayu left wondering what she just witnessed. Now she's gonna be in it, so I definitely think they've extended this mystery for a couple of episodes, which I do appreciate. I think having the more slow roll for Nyammy can have her sort of meld into the team more gracefully instead of just automatically being here, especially when her personality is very stark versus everybody else. I mean, the whole group has already worked really hard to have good synergy between, like, our shy character, our nerdy guy, and then our chaotic Mugi and Iroha. That having somebody like Yuki is going to take a little bit more effort to put in there. I like that she's kind of this combination of Cure Muse, Cure Sword, and Cure Honey with the way that she's being introduced, so it does feel fresh, it feels new, while also still having elements that we've seen in the franchise before. I also think this is a good sign for our mid-season, because they're doing this whole mysterious intro to this character now. She's embodying this mystery, which means they are significantly less likely to do that with our mid-season, which I'm hoping that, as far as the series has gone and then the characters we've introduced, we have not really introduced a character yet that could be our mid-season. I mean, other than Satoru and Daifuku. I mean, I'm majorly biased and I will 100% say that. But as long as we keep the contenders out of the way, I'm good. I hope they don't pull a Cure Ace, but they could do that. But Cure Ace was another character who was filled with mystery before she joined the team. I'm hoping that because we're seeing that Cure Nyammy is holding this mystery, that perhaps this is a higher chance that our boys will be the mid-season Cure. Oh, I saw somebody else say that one of the Kyodine animals might turn into the mid-season Cure. I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that theory because it hurt my feelings. It hurt my feelings, I don't want that to be true! And it's... And nonetheless, we end off on this very mysterious bedroom scene. We do see that up until this point, which I think was something we could have figured, Yuki turns into her human form and opens the windowsill and then hops to and from the windowsill, which honestly, the architecture of the building really makes that possible for her to move around. Cats can jump pretty high, but like when you have your building like essentially just a bunch of cat ramps, that was very clever design. Shout out to the design team taking advantage of everything that they put in there. Now we understand why Pretty Holic looks the way it does. Anyways, thank you for watching today's episode. I will see you next time. Bye bye!